Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. Before we went to the break, of course, we were speaking with ASP Dirk John. We're talking about crime here on the island of Tobago, how you and I can help and partner with the TTPS to ensure that we can get the criminal elements off the streets and to make Tobago a safe space once again. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We're heading into conversations about the SOE. As you are aware, Trinidad and Tobago was declared in a state of SOE, state of emergency. I think it was on the 30th of December 2024, and we're still in that space, and we want to talk a little bit about how that impacts our lives as citizens. I know a lot of people still have a lot of questions. They're unclear as to what it means, especially as we currently do not have a curfew attached to the SOE, so they're wondering what are the elements. So let's talk a little bit about the average citizen in Trinidad and Tobago. What can they understand? What should we understand by the state of emergency and where we are right now?
Let's look at one key issue of movement. Due to the fact that there is no curfew in place, persons are free to conduct their business during the day and during the night. It is important. In relation to stop and searches, we have intensified that. So the state of emergency has allowed us to intensify our ability to stop and search persons and places without warrant. We are working in tandem with the Defense Force as well, who has similar police powers. By working with those entities, we allow a balanced approach to achieving our goals, which is those persons who are bent on causing mayhem, we are going straight for them. It's not the average citizen we're looking for, you know. We're looking for those persons that we have information, intelligence on, evidence, who are gun runners, smugglers, drug traffickers.
And that's the next thing, is intelligence-based. The stop and search is based on intelligence that you receive. Right, good.
So it's more focused. So the average person going to work, taking their children to school this morning, school has reopened, they have nothing to study. The inconvenience would be that if we are applying a police operation such as a roadblock, it's going to take some time. Just bear with us, please. Because we know who we're looking for, we know what we want to retrieve. So we'll just ask them to just move along as that time comes along. Just bear with us with that. It's not going to be permanent. It's just that we are more targeted and specific towards those persons who are causing problems.
The inconvenience is absolutely necessary at this time, especially as you conduct those exercises as well. We're talking now about the Army being a part of the SOE, having those types of authorities
stop and search
as well. We also want to talk about the fact that you can detain without a charge.
Yes.
How does that work, and what does the average citizen I know you could go into somebody's home without a warrant.
Yes.
Let's go with that, and do the searches, probably arrest them. And let's say, for instance, you find nothing there that is incriminating or leads to a charge or anything like that, and the person is free to go.
Yes.
We spoke about this earlier on the show with another guest. What is the citizen supposed to do then? Like, you came into my home and I was the wrong person. I didn't do anything. There's nothing. You didn't find anything there. What steps can I take as a citizen?
Understood. And that's a primary concern. What we should say is this. Our information drives us. Sometimes the information is not good, but we have to check it out still. All right? Now, when you look at the action of entering into a property based on the SOE, we are specifically looking for persons who have or are considered to be priority offenders, persons who are in possession of firearms, ammunition, quantum of drugs. If it is that we enter a home and there is an issue, there is still recourse in relation to the police complaints. They can still file a complaint. But the officers are mandated to be as civil and professional as they have been always. Now, the issue of stop and search, we always had that ability. It's just that we have intensified it. You're going to see a greater vigilance, a greater visibility, and the propensity for us to act more aggressively towards those persons who have been committing crimes. All right? So we are more focused on that.
What are some of the things that would lead to there having to be now a curfew?
Yes. Well,
are we hoping that we don't get there?
If the situation changes, if there is additional information coming to the National Security Council, I would not know at this time. But if the information changes as to the status of things, I believe the powers that be would have that ability to reshape aspects of the declaration.
So it will take something that is, let's say, not as manageable as it is right now.
Correct.
And we're hoping, Trinidad and Tobago, we're hoping that it does not get to that stage where we have to go into a curfew. I know initially when the state of emergency was mentioned, the first thing on everybody's question, I was looking at people updates, their status updates, their Facebook posts, and are we having a curfew was the number one question. But I feel as if there are more important questions to ask. You mentioned there's no, we know there's no curfew at this point in time. You can continue with your business, conduct your business as usual. But the more important questions are, what are the things that will, why we don't have a curfew is the question. Not
I understand.
do we have a curfew? Why don't we have a curfew? And as you mentioned before, you know, just intensifying the things that you were doing before.
Correct.
And it does not warrant a curfew right now. And we're hoping by God's grace and by our behavior, it does not warrant a curfew.
Correct.
What are some of the things outside of this stop and search that you have intensified over the period that we are going to be under an SOE?
All right, so I can't go to the specifics of that. Operationally, we can adjust and adapt as information comes. The key issue is we want those guns off the street. It is unacceptable that persons are running around with high-powered weapons and indiscriminately shooting at persons. Yes, they have their targets, but there are innocent persons moving around that would fall victim to that type of action. So we're looking for those high-powered weapons, and we're going where we need to go.
And in terms of the Tobago instance, can we say that the intelligence is coming in a way that you are happy with so far, and you're encouraging that it will continue to come in so that you are able to, you know, there are some hotspot areas. There are some areas that you definitely have to target.
Yes.
Have you been able to identify some of those hotspot areas as a result of your intelligence?
Yes.
And of course, strategies have been implemented to ensure that you get in there, extract and get out?
Yes. So when you look at a multi-agency approach to this, we have several entities working together. What I attempt to do as a operations lead is to pool the information, have it analyzed for its value, and then act on it. So there's a constant flow. As the information comes to me, I can dissect it and then dispatch it to relevant entities to act on it. So we're getting a lot more intelligence, which we can transform into evidence. So we have, over the last few days, arrested shooters and persons we believe bent on causing mischief on the island. So the officers are doing a really good job under the station commanders, the inspectors, the sergeants, and those officers who are working tirelessly day and night. When some people are sleeping and having a good time, we are on the streets doing what we need to do. Kudos to the officers.
You said that you had a few arrests over the past couple of days.
Yes.
Are you able to disclose the numbers of persons that you were arrested and perhaps the crime that they were arrested for?
All right, so as of, and I'm going to pull a media release from the TTPS from the 4th of January, we had 126 persons held, 675 rounds of ammunition, varied assortments. Now, we are looking at persons who are suspected of committing homicides, shootings, woundings. Those are key violent crimes that we need to put in check.
And this is in the Trinidad and Tobago
Trinidad
space.
and Tobago space.
Do you have specifics in the Tobago space for that period?
Well, I wouldn't want to go into that at this point in time.
All right. So you're seeing the SOE as being effective, as it were, where you are in terms of the operations and, of course, the numbers that you just presented there. And you're seeing that it is creating a type of impact that you're hoping that will be continuous?
Of course. What you get from the officers on the ground is that before their hands were tied in relation to entering, getting the substantive judicial authority to enter within a timely manner. Now, it's important that people understand that we act within the confines of the law always. If we go outside of that, there's going to be problems. So in order for the officers to get the thing done, we need the authority. So with the manifestation of the SOE, we can now venture into and search with a view to seize those firearms, those drugs, as well as persons who we suspect of committing violent crimes. Now, the issue of reasonable suspicion is important to disclose. Information facts, circumstances that come to our attention, based on information, based on surveillance, based on sources verified, we act towards obtaining substantive proof.
You know, sometimes when you're in a state of emergency, sometimes you call out officers who are on vacation. In this instance, was that done? Did you have to call on additional resources to ensure that the operation, because as you mentioned, it's intensified, more boots on the ground,
yes.
and people are doing, you know, the police, the TTPS and the agencies are working. Have you had to call members who are on vacation and out of the country back to assist in this particular state of emergency?
Well, we have utilized some aspects of that particular power through the senior superintendent, and we have a lot more available. However, we can have a lot more still. So in time to come, the senior super is going to look at the situation, the status, review, and then act towards improving when needs to be.
Of course, I know that the primary objective is to ensure we get the criminal elements off the street.
Correct.
And to ensure that Trinidad and Tobago comes back to a place that is safe. And primarily here in Tobago, as we were mentioning, Tobago is really a community-based.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
A community-based space, and we are seeing a lot of different faces. For me, in general, I am seeing a lot of different faces in
Yes.
spaces that I know to be Tobago spaces, and I'm seeing, you know, so I want to take this opportunity to encourage persons in the communities to befriend your neighbor. If you see somebody new living in your community, if you see something strange in the community, how about have a conversation? Do we still have community councils, village councils coming together and having events, conversations, meetings? And again, town hall meetings by the TTPS needs to be something that is ongoing in 2025 to get that measure of collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're going to go for a short break before we continue conversations here in studio this morning with ASP Dirk John of the TTPS as we speak about the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago with a focus on what is happening here on the island of Tobago. Remember, we also have a responsibility to partner with to ensure that the spaces we reside in remain safe for us and for generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your opportunity to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We will be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. We continue conversations this morning, and we're speaking with ASP Dirk John of the TTPS as we talk about things crime in Trinidad and Tobago. We started off by talking about the updates for the Tobago space, and then we went on to SOE. And we're going to continue the conversations, and we want you guys to know that the phone lines will be open this morning. The number to call is 284-6597. You can call us and leave your comments there. You can even WhatsApp us and let us know how you feel, what you think, and you can also comment on the live stream. But we're hoping that you can call in this morning and be a part of the conversation. ASP, in recent times, we've been seeing a lot of what they call gel guns or gel blasters being a problem in the public space. I want to get into the conversation because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it is a rumor, but I think it was over the weekend where a young man was shot because he had a gel gun. So let's go through that conversation. First of all, is it legal, permissible to own and have and operate a gel gun in Trinidad and Tobago? I know for me, I don't like to see children playing with guns at all. Water gun, no type of gun. And so here we are. We've graduated. You look at some of these gel blasters and they look like...
They look real.
They look so real.
And that's the dangerous thing for us. Because as a security practitioner, lighting condition plays a part with me, right? If I'm operating during the day or operating during the night, and someone points an object like that at me, how am I to tell that it's real or not? You understand? And that's a very dangerous thing. Also, the person needs to understand by pointing an object like that, they may be committing the offense of common assault. It's a very, very serious thing. Yeah,
because I'm thinking a gel gun is a toy, right?
It's something toy, that... But how would the police know? You see, I would suggest, now it's a lot of young men with this craze of pulling a trigger. Stay in your house and play with that gel gun. Do not exit your house. Do not be on the street at any point in time, especially during such a time like this, and running around with that pointing at anyone.
You know, because I saw some images
Yes.
of the gel gun, and it really does look like a real
Yes,
machine.
it does. Yes, it does. Now, you also have the phenomenon of imitation firearms. And just recently in the United States, officers shot a 13-year-old whilst in pursuit of him, only to realize that he was in possession of an imitation firearm. So people need to be careful, especially with that in the public. Stay in your house. You understand?
And you know, my next thing is, while you are not the policymaker and the lawmaker, there are some things that we have to put restrictions on in terms of getting to Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
I think that is something we have to put a ban on. No importation of those types of toys. We've put restrictions on other different things,
Of course.
like camouflage clothing.
And sex
for
toys.
instance. Yeah, yeah. Let's put a ban on this. You know, and I'm speaking to the policymakers now. There are things that we need to revisit, things that we need to review. And, you know, I think a toy gun it might sound like a toy, but I think a gun is a good thing to put a ban on, to put some type of restrictions on, especially the mode of Trinidad and Tobago right
Correct.
now, the way things are happening.
Correct.
And, you know, I don't know if I could attribute this to guys playing games online, because, you know, there are lots of these online games, whether they call them Fortnite or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And of course, they want to practice in real.
Yes.
You know, besides staying behind a control and playing on a screen,
Yes.
they want to make it real, as you call them, trigger happy.
Sugar happy. Now, again, understand the conditioning that every day you have this thing in your hand and you're pulling the trigger. That's muscle memory within the police circles. It means that if you find something with a trigger, your mind mentally goes to pulling that trigger. It's a dangerous thing. How would someone such as a child tell the difference between a real weapon and a fake weapon? We have had instances in homes where a child would locate a firearm and injure someone or probably themselves. So what I'm saying is that now we have the issue of FUL holders as well, not securing their weapons adequately, which could cause problems. So 80% plus of homicides are committed with firearms. Gel guns, I don't want to see it, and my officers don't want to see it outside here. Play with it home.
And that, you know, takes me to the next point. Recently, I think it was closer to the end of last year, we saw where some young children at home in Trinidad, they were playing with a firearm.
That's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
You understand? And someone lost their life. It's unfortunate, but we are investigating that to understand the responsibility as to whom and what we're going to do after.
We have to be a little bit more responsible
Absolutely.
and vigilant. For those parents who are buying toys for their
May I
children.
suggest
But
a
then
book,
again,
Adanna? May I suggest a good book? I think that's a good gift. What you say? Read, build your knowledge, improve vision to allow yourself to be more cemented in society.
or
in time to
even
come.
get involved in some type of community activity,
course,
a
of course,
sport, for
of course.
instance. There are other interests. Play football,
Exactly.
get into a club or something like that, instead of sitting behind a device. And I believe that that interest came from playing those video games, and now wanting to have this gel gun to say, right, I actually have this gun in my hand,
Exactly.
and I'm going to fire shots
Exactly.
at whomever.
Now, please, the police, we're not going to ask you, is that real?
You don't
What
have
you have
time
in your
for
hand,
that, do
is that
you?
real? No, we're not going to. Our lives, we have family, we have children. The officers do understand the use of force policy, and they will seek to preserve their lives.
And that is very, very important, because, of course, if you see an item looking like a gun, whether it's toy, whether it's fake, whether it's real,
Exactly.
as you mentioned, the first thing is to preserve lives. And, you know, you can't try to figure out, well, this is a 15-year-old child or a 14-year-old
No, not
child,
in
and
that
they're
instant.
playing in the yard.
Exactly.
You can't sit and try to determine that. You have to immediately advance and see what is, you know, try to preserve your life.
Absolutely.
And in this instance, the last one I was talking about, the report is that the child the person aimed the gun at the officer. That is why they were shot. I can't remember exactly where I saw that, but it was over the weekend that I saw something of that nature happening. And of course, it is quite scary. And we have to expect that if you put yourself in that type of situation, there are certain things that will happen. So, of course, we have to be responsible. In terms of persons who are able to sell these devices, is it that they're importing them off of sites, or are they buying them locally?
Well, let's look at how these things are entering into the country. I would implore my colleagues at customs to be more vigilant and understanding as to the present climate, and to treat with that prior to its entry onto the land. So again, conversations with relevant entities is important to understand the broader national security landscape to treat with these things, because we are not importing them, the police. Civilians are bringing them in, and they pass through the ports, you understand, to be then distributed to various merchandisers.
And you know, I remember, our callers remember the lines are open. You can call 284-6597 so we can have the conversation. And as you're talking about importing stuff, I remember a couple of years ago, I was trying to import a small toy drone.
Yes.
A tiny one. It was like about this size, the size of a tea plate.
Yes.
And the amount of interrogation I had to go through from customs just to bring in that small, tiny
Understood.
device.
Yes.
And now, how are gel blasters getting in here? I wonder if they are getting the same type of interrogation that I received to bring in a plastic, literally a blue plastic disc for a child. So what are the processes now in terms of importing things? Because we're talking about something that looks like a weapon.
Correct, correct. And people are painting them over. So the black effect brings the black effect, which is death. You understand that? And this is not what we want, because we have so many other things to deal with on this land. Should we deal with gel guns now? So is this thing one thing after the next? No, 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 no. Put a clamp on it so we can treat the broader issue. You understand? Reducing homicides, removing those shooters from off the streets so that people can go about their daily lives much better.
You know, I think public education is very, very important. And this is why I will speak again about the town meetings, not just the town meetings to hear what community members have to say, but in terms of educating them on the law, what is acceptable, and how we're going to move forward. Because maybe they think, well, I can import a gel gun, so it's not illegal. It's not, nothing is wrong with it, so let me just do this. We now have to talk about change in behavior.
Correct.
We have to talk about improving the way we think and the way we behave, and think about the reactions to our actions.
Consequences. That's what you mentioned.
That's right.
Consequences. You see, someone pulling the trigger on someone has to understand consequence. So taking control of your family, especially your young sons, is important. Where is your 15-year-old going late at night? Who is he going to see or meet? Whose car is he jumping into? You understand? Because your school age, what you ought to be doing at home is to be reviewing your work for the next day. Nothing is wrong in chatting with your friends, you know. But where are you going at 10 o'clock in the night, 11 o'clock in the night? Take control of your homes.
Have we lost control? It means that we've lost control.
Well, then we have lost control of ourselves. At the end of the day, I want to know that my kids can grow up and live long, prosperous, happy lives, safe lives, being valuable to the community. I'm going to play my part. I'm not perfect, but I'm going to play my part. But my son can't tell me, I go in and pump, and it's 11 o'clock in the night. I say, pump, sleep.
Why is he even awake at 11 p.m.?
Probably watching something on TV, you know, because again, the stimulation visually for the young ones are important, you know. That's why these games attract them. It's visually stimulating. But I recommend, with regards to reading, there are audio books, and there are books that you can lift your imagination and allow yourself proper expression. Because most times on the street, when we approach them, they can't adequately express themselves, you know. For example, the word normal, Adanna. We hear that a lot, you know. Say, listen, I'm going with you. And normal. What does that mean?
What does it mean?
What does that mean? Because you can have a gun on you normal. You could be gunning down people normal. So what is normal? So again, when you look at one's expression, maybe they couch it, but you see an inadequacy of expression, especially young men. What does that say? If you can't adequately express yourself, if you're disappointed, if you're angry, you pull a gun. Instead of looking to talk it out, what is the issue? Let me trash it out. You understand? We go straight to maximum 100%. No. Let's negotiate. You know?
And you know what you're leading to there is, you know, there was a saying that we used to say, I hear it, you know, kind of not as often as I used to. It takes a village.
Correct.
And I feel as if the village is failing. And so we need some type of encouragement to bring our village back to ensure that our children are in a good place. I remember as a child growing up, if, let's say for instance, your parents and a neighbor have a falling out, that has nothing to do with you as a child.
Correct.
Now you see children answering back the neighbor.
Correct. Start a big people business.
Yeah. And you see parents running up in school for the teacher,
Yes,
for the child.
yes.
If a teacher complained about me to my parents, I know I was going home to some good licks. You know, and I feel as if we have changed so many things in terms of how we bring up communities, how we bring up children. And another thing we don't really attend to is talking about issues in the home.
Correct.
As you just mentioned, a young person cannot articulate themselves
Correct.
properly. And I feel as if that situation is not created at home for them to be able to do that. Created in the school, there are guidance officers.
Yes.
There are so many different persons who can come together to ensure that a child is in a good place, to do
Yes.
some investigations. There's
Absolutely.
community policing that goes into schools, that have conversations. And I think these are things we need to amplify
Correct.
and to kind of bring back
Correct.
to ensure that our young people, because I'm telling you, they go through a lot.
Yes, definitely.
And their communication skills are really, really poor.
Yes.
And I feel because we have not created a situation where they feel safe or comfortable,
Yes.
you know, especially a young man. A young man will say he normal because if you ask him what happened to him and something really is happening and he says what is happening, what his partner is going to do.
Exactly. Exactly. Now look at within the home. As parents, the question of what do you think and how do you feel are very impactful questions, you know. It allows now for you to look at the body language of the child. As the child is bringing out a particular emotion, be it upset, be it scared, be it happy, be it elated. Ask the questions. What do you think? How do you feel? Yet you are in charge, not the child. I can't see how you can't enter into your child's room.
That's a question for another day. Ladies and gentlemen, we're so happy that you stayed with us throughout this entire conversation this morning. We've been speaking with ASP Dirk John of the TTPS, talking about the crime updates here on the island of Tobago, SOE, and of course some things that we can do to ensure that our communities and our spaces are kept safe once again. Remember, if you see something, say something, you can call the hotlines to give your information and to support the TTPS in curbing crime here on the island of Tobago. This is where we end the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, but it's not where we end our programming. We head on over to GMT, that is Good Morning Tobago, and as you stay with us, we invite you to help us share the live, share the live, share the live.